Cass Kim. I said I wasn't going to do another video today, but I decided to go ahead and do it anyhow. Yes, I am wearing the same shirt I wore in one of my earliest videos. That's because I am probably not going to buy much new clothes till I pay off my student loans. So don't mind me if I repeat outfits. A lot of my clothes are actually like 5 to 6 years old because who really cares, right? So today we are going to be talking about 5 tips for dealing with feedback. So this could apply to feedback from editors, but it can also apply to feedback from beta readers. So the first tip that I have for you is to let it rest. So my recommendation is to look through the comments, get a basic idea of what the comments are, and don't do anything right away. Take a day or two, maybe a week, and just let your emotions kind of settle. I don't care how practiced you are as a writer. I think there's always going to be 1 or 2 comments that kind of like just get your goat a little, where you're just like, oh, man, that one hurt. Or, oh, gosh, how did I make so many mistakes? I should have proofread better. There's always going to be some emotional aspect to getting feedback on our books. Our books are our babies. We love the crap out of them. We spend so much time with those characters, with those moments, creating it, dreaming it, trying to force it out of ourselves. So let it rest and then come back to it when you've had some time to absorb and to then be ready to deal with the actual comments, not just the like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of comments kind of feeling. Number 2, don't argue. So you'll see me say this about a million different places about beta reading, but the same thing goes with editing. If you don't agree, I wouldn't argue. It's different to have a question like, hey, when you said to do this, did you want this because of this? Or, it's a lot different than, I don't care, you're being rude. Or like, I disagree. If you disagree, just don't use the feedback. It's okay. You can disagree, absolutely, but I don't think you need to get into it or like really delve into that with your beta readers or your editors. I will say if you disagree with quite a bit of the feedback you're getting, maybe they're not the right person for you. Maybe they're the wrong editor. Maybe you should try different beta readers. Because if you're finding you're disagreeing with like 75% of what they're saying, or even 50%, or even just the way that they say it is kind of really rubs you the wrong way, they're not the right fit for you, and that's okay. There is never going to be an editor that's the perfect fit for every writer that approaches them. That's why it's really important to do your research and kind of maybe email back and forth a time or two to get a feeling for how they respond to things, because we're humans too, right? Like editors are humans too, and we all interact differently. Okay, number 3, look for trends. So this is specifically when you're using multiple beta readers. Look for trends in things. That's why I like to use a minimum of 3 as a general rule. Sometimes 5 is a little bit better because it gives you a little bit more information. But somebody might say something's confusing, but to you, you're like, oh no, it makes perfect sense. Did they not catch the foreshadowing, or did they forget about this character I introduced? But if 2 out of 3 people think it's confusing, it means you either didn't set it up well enough or you need to rewrite that section. Because as much as we are writing for ourselves, if you're planning on publishing it, you are to an extent writing for your audience. If your audience doesn't understand something in your story, they're going to miss whatever that follows up on or whatever led up to that. You don't want a whole section of your story that's confusing, right? And the same thing goes for like awkward sentences or slow areas where somebody might be saying, oh, hey, your pacing is off. This is really slow. Can we liven it up? Or, oh, that's a lot of dialogue with no breakup. If you find anything where there's a trend where more than 1 or 2 people are saying the same thing, or where the majority of your beta readers have a similar comment, and it might not be the same comment. It might not be like, oh, there's a lot of talking here. It might just be like, this feels off, right? But if the same section gets the same kind of commentary that's not all positive, I think it's worth looking at that section. So look for trends. Number 4, know your story. So as I said earlier, you don't have to take every piece of feedback that people give you. Your editor might be someone who was having a really bad day when they looked at it, or goodness knows, we're all having a lot of really hard days right now. So you need to know your story too. If there's a trend, yeah, you probably need to change it. But if there's one person who said something and you completely disagree, I don't think that you should change your story for that, unless it's something like, really bad grammar or a typo. But I don't think anybody would feel like so tied into a grammatical thing. But, it could be something as simple as like you believe in capitalizing something specific within the world that you have created. And they're like, decapitalize, decapitalize, decapitalize. Well, that's your choice. If you want to capitalize the name of something, like a type of magic or like a type of creature or something, if you have a reason and it's a rule in your universe, I think you can stick with that. Same thing goes for maybe like the content of your story. There's some things that when I read, I'm like, hey, FYI, this might rub somebody the wrong way. Like as a female, I might say to like another author, like, hey, to me, when you call this person that, it comes off this way. Or as like somebody who's in their 30s, I might say, I don't understand that reference. So, just know your story and know what works in the story. Just because it makes me feel a certain way as a female doesn't mean every female is going to feel the way that I feel that reads it. And just because I don't understand something as a 30-something-year-old doesn't mean that every person my age or older isn't going to get it, or my age or younger. Anybody who reads your story, they're not the entire picture of the world, right? So if it's something that you feel really strongly about, it is your story, so you can keep it. Just remember that. And then number 5, be timely. So this is kind of a weird thing to say, I guess, but like when I do edits, I offer phone calls before and after with my authors so that we can discuss anything that they have questions about. So if I allow people the choice of like, do you want to do a phone call immediately, or do you want some time to look through the edits and get your feelings out, and then we can talk about them, So I give like a 1 to 2 week time frame for that, because if they come to me like 2 months later, I might not remember the story well enough to give them the quality responses that they deserve when they want to talk about it. Because we're all reading constantly. We're all very busy. We have our minds in a bunch of different stories all the time, right? So if you are going to have like a conference with your editor or with your beta readers, better to get to that feedback in a timely manner so that they can actually respond to you in a way that's meaningful. Because otherwise you're just like asking someone, hey, do you remember this? Let me educate you again on what you read. Okay, cool. So that's just a lot of stuff to think about when you're taking in feedback. Oh, the cat's going to come in the video. Here's the cat. But when you're taking in feedback, hi kitten. Oh, sorry. When you're taking in feedback, there's just, some things to think about. You need to let it rest so that you don't just come at it with emotion, right? It's too easy to ignore too many things if you're feeling in your soul about it. If you're feeling like, at the moment, you might ignore things that are actually beneficial, or you might take comments that you later regret taking because you just were like clicking through and doing it, right? Number 2, I don't think it's worth your time to argue. I don't think it's really good for, I don't think it's really good for your relationships and your time investment, right? To argue with people. How often do people say, oh, you're right, I completely agree, I'm so sorry? And even if they do, how much does that really benefit you in the long run? So if you really disagree with somebody, just don't use them for your next project. Unless, of course, like somebody said that they're like a line editor or a copy editor or a proofreader and they like did not catch anything, that would be a different story. That would be a time to ask for your money back. But if it's just you don't necessarily like their feedback, or you don't really agree with some things that they ask you to change, that might be different. All right, number 3, look for trends. So have enough feedback that you can see trends while you're doing your looks at your beta reads, so that you can know whether something's kind of just off the map, a random person's agreement or thought, or I'm sorry about the cat, or if you really need to look at something. Even if it's something that you like, you might need to change it if the trend is that it's confusing or unclear or just doesn't work for the story. And then that brings us to number 4, which is you need to know your story. Stop it, kitty. Oh, sugar. Yeah, I knew I shouldn't do a video today. Gosh darn it. Okay, so know your story. Don't just blindly take feedback. It's your story, so you need to do what's going to work for your story best. And then, and then number 5, be timely. I'm just going to hold this. Be timely when you're asking for any responses on your feedback. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to actually incorporate the feedback. It just matters that if you're going to be having a dialogue about it, that it's in a timely enough manner that the person you're asking questions of can be really clear and detailed on it as well. Okay, so sorry for all the cat interruptions. He looks quite pleased with himself right now. Sorry that the phone fell over. I hope that you stuck with me throughout this video. This is not the norm. I was just trying to do this kind of late in the day so the pets are kind of hungry. Just trying to sneak this in here. I spent a lot of time today just trying to do other things, and this is a last minute attempt to get this video out. So I hope you guys are staying safe. Wear your mask. Vote. Vote.